Everyone who works at a bike shop says they don't do it for the money because there's a lot better ways to be making money. And a lot of people say that working at a bike shop, the satisfaction and the amount of fun that you have more than makes up for the lack of monetary gain. And this may hurt my street cred a bit, but I am 29 years old. I've been doing this bike YouTube thing for the past 10 years, and I've never worked at a bike shop. My career path was going to college, then becoming a YouTuber, and realized that I didn't need to go to college. And yelling at a camera about bikes is the only job that I have, and I'm extremely fortunate to be able to say that. So last week I was in Taipei hanging out with my friend Hal, who's the owner of Faith Gear, and I had a lot of time on my hands because my wife Chloe was hanging out with one of her best friends, and I was just stuck hanging out at the bike shop with my only remaining friend in Taipei because everyone else has gone to the United States or Canada. Taiwan has a real brain drain problem, but that's a story for another day. So instead of sitting around for a whole day waiting for my wife to be done hanging out with her friend, I asked my friend Hal, hey, is there any help you need around the shop? Is there anything I can work on? Here's what I learned working at a bike shop for a day. It is as fun as everybody says. The entire day kind of just felt like hanging out with my friend and just working on bikes and doing something that I love. And I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much, say like 5 years ago when I just wanted to do as little bike maintenance as possible. But these days I see bike maintenance as also working on myself. It's really satisfying to work with my hands because normally I'm just doing this and then not really talking to anybody face to face, and it's hard to feel the impact and the importance of what I do just through YouTube. But working at a bike shop is completely different because I am working with my hands and I am solving problems on the spot to make specific customers happy so that they can ride their bikes, and that feels really good. Also, the environment is just really chill, at least at Faith Gear, and working with my buddy Hal, there wasn't a whole lot of pressure to get a whole lot done, but it was rather just work at my own pace and get as much done as I want to get done, which is how I like to work. And also because we were just working next to each other, we were just chatting the whole time. We play this game where we take turns asking each other questions and you have to answer it as soon as possible, like, best chainring brand, go. 1 gear ratio for the rest of your life. Would you rather live in Taiwan or the United States? Do you want your next kid to be a boy or a girl? Stuff like that. And it's just a lot of fun to be able to just, have some bro time at the shop while also getting some work done. And at no point during the workday did I ever feel bored. Yeah, working at a bike shop is as fun and as satisfying as everybody says, as long as you work for a shop that you like, with people that you like. I worked, unpaid, volunteered, for an 8.5-hour shift, and it was go, go, go. And this day was a bit busier than normal. So although I wasn't bored at all during the day, I was doing something and working on something that needed to be worked on for the entire day. And at no point during the day was I just farting around and pretending to look like I'm busy. There was stuff that needed to get done, problems that needed to be solved, and I did them for the entire 8.5 hours. The only break that I took was a dinner break, and I only took a break when I started getting shaky. Like, I was working so hard that I didn't even realize that it was like 7 o'clock at night and I hadn't eaten dinner yet. And I told Hal, like, bro, we need to get dinner because I'm getting kind of lightheaded. I also didn't realize how much hard work it is on like your hands and your feet, because normally I'm just sitting at a desk and editing videos or writing scripts, but I was on my feet all day and my feet started getting cramps and I had to like shake out my toes. The main project I was working on was completely disassembling, deep cleaning a customer's bike and then reassembling it completely re-lubed, re-greased, and also replacing some parts on it, and scrubbing away at someone's chainring that hasn't been cleaned in probably 10 or 15 years. Like, I started getting hand cramps. It is a lot of hard work. While the bikes and parts and accessories that a bike shop carries may be the things that keep people coming into the door and introduces them to the shop, the thing that keeps people coming back is that they can fix their problems there and hang out with cool people. Working as a mechanic at a bike shop, I realized that I didn't care about any of the stuff in the shop, despite it dripping in Fixie points at every corner. All I cared about was where the heck is this 5mm Allen key for the 15th time, and how the heck do I get this bottom bracket off that hasn't been touched in 15 years? And really what makes a bike shop special is the expertise and the people that can fix the problems that come into a bike shop, whatever it may be. Whether that's somebody came in just to hang out because they're lonely, or a grandma needed a rear flat replaced, or a business guy had this metal key holder that he needed to tighten with an Allen key, or another customer who was getting his first fixed gear that day. But more important than that, he was learning how to ride a fixed gear and what makes them special. Because as customers, we often go to shops because we need to buy a thing. But actually working at a shop for a whole day, that comprised of maybe only 15% of my time there. And rather, people were coming in for much more important things than a purchase decision, like getting their bikes fixed so they can go home, or feeling like they have a community. I also really like helping people in person because although I absolutely love YouTube and I do genuinely believe that it is the best job in the world, it does lack that face-to-face element that makes working at a bike shop so fun. So this white guy walks into the shop, and I assume he speaks English because he's a white guy in Taiwan. Call me prejudiced all you want, but I was correct. So I say, "Hey, what's up? What brings you into the shop today?" He says, I'm just checking out the shop, just browsing around. I was like, all right, let me know if you need anything. He goes and shops around and comes up to the front counter with a couple of straps. And I ask him, like, oh, what bikes are these going on? And he tells me his story that he's from Vancouver, and then he got a set of pink CKC straps for his friend. And then I told him my experience with those straps because they are the best straps that I have ever used. Better than Hold Fast, because they hold their shape better than Hold Fast, ironically. And they're a lot stiffer and easier to get into the strap. We're just having our whole bike nerd talk. But yeah, that whole experience and being able to connect over a real person face to face is completely different than doing it online. And although I don't get to reach as many people in a bike shop, the quality of interactions that I have with people and the feeling that we are connecting over our shared love in a space dedicated to it in person feels really special and irreplaceable. No matter how big my YouTube channel is, no matter how special it is to me, that face-to-face interaction is irreplaceable. Time flies when you're working at a bike shop because there are so many dang things to do. I was only working on like 2 main projects that day. One was the deep cleaning of a customer's OG fixed gear that hasn't been touched in many moons. And then the other was putting together a brand new stock bike that Faith Gear was going to sell. But in the middle of my shift at Faith Gear, a guy comes in, and he's a part-timer named Jimmy. And Hal introduced us and told me what Jimmy's working on and that he could help me with the deep clean project. And then I went and worked on another bike while Jimmy was cleaning some of the parts. And it felt like Jimmy was there for maybe an hour since we said hi. And suddenly he's like, oh, Zach, it's nice meeting you. I'm going now. And I was like, going? You just got here. But I looked at my watch, and it had been 4 hours. I thought it had been 1 hour just because I was so busy, focused, and in that flow state, trying to get these projects done and having fun while doing it, that I didn't even realize that Jimmy completed his part-time shift of 4 hours. Working at a bike shop, it is very tiring, and I'm not like super experienced. I have a day under my belt. I would like to have more days. Actually, I'm going to be working part-time as an unpaid intern at VeloTrap in January and February, so come say hi to me if you're in the area. Although it's very tiring, at the end of the day, I felt like a good kind of tired because I felt like I had helped specific people get on bikes. And that to me is like a really special feeling, knowing that the thing that I did in one day will make someone really happy and help them be happy as they want to ride their bike more. Working is also a lot more fun than chilling, so I ended up working on Faith Gear, not like planned or anything, because I was just bored and waiting for my wife to be done hanging out with a friend in Taipei so that we could go back home here in Taichung. I'm super glad that Hal gave me stuff to work on because the time flew by so fast, and also I had a ton of fun. If I was just sitting there, just waiting or just talking to him while he works, it would have been a completely different experience, and I would have been a hell of a lot more bored just sitting at a bike shop and not really doing anything when there is work to be done. And also, when Hal and I first started working and the shop first opened for the day, we were talking a whole lot. We were chatting, laughing, having some bro bonding time. But then it got to a point in the day where we didn't really talk to each other at all unless it was necessary. And not because we were so busy, but it was because we were so focused that we just had this urge to finish whatever we were working on, and that talking would interrupt the work, and that the work was more fun than talking and working at a chill pace. A lot of times when I would finish the task that Hal gave to me, I would ask him, is there anything else that needs to be done? And he said, nah, you can chill. I was like, are you sure? Because I want to do something. If there's anything else, I'll do it. And then he would give me a next thing, and I would be ecstatic that I get to work on another bike. It's not just about the tool, but how you use it, because I've used all of these tools many times in my life working on my own bikes, but it's very different when you're working on an old bike that hasn't been touched or maintained in many years. I think it's a miracle that somebody can let a bike sit what looked like outside for at least 10 years and then have the chutzpah to take it to a shop because they want to ride it. No, I'm all for it. I'm just surprised that that happens because usually when a bike sits for that long, that rider has given up biking. But working on that bike, I had a few hiccups where I needed Hal's help because he's been a bike mechanic for much longer than me and working at a scale much larger than me, where I needed his help taking off the bottom bracket and the cog. And I just asked him if he could show me how to do it, and so I could observe his technique. For taking off a cog, especially a stuck one that's been on there for a lot of years, he told me you gotta go straight and make sure you focus on pushing that chain whip down with your body weight, like as straight as possible. And I saw him take off like the pretty stuck on their bottom bracket, and he was telling me, oh, you just gotta keep going. Even if your hand hurts, just keep going and it'll loosen, and that's all it takes. And that kind of stuff, I feel like can only be learned in person and not through YouTube. There's a lot of things that you have to feel. There's a lot of things that you have to learn through experience. And working there for a day, I learned a couple of techniques that will definitely make working on bikes a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. He also gave me a secret weapon tool that holds in the bottom bracket tool so you could put down as much force as possible. All of this stuff, it culminates at the bike shop, and you can't necessarily just Google or YouTube this stuff, but it needs to be learned through experience. Black is the ultimate clothing color. I make fun of my wife a lot for only ever really wearing and buying black clothes, but I totally understand it now because number one, black is a super functional color. I just happened to be wearing all black that day, and I am glad I did because I was covered in grease, like from my arm to my pants to my shirt, and none of it showed. I still looked presentable. On top of that, black is really classy. It can fit into a lot of different social situations, even if you are just casual. But black also has an edge to it. It makes you look cool and badass. But at the same time, it's also a very professional color. All black. Wow. I learned I should probably get a torque wrench because Hal was telling me specific torque settings for bolts and for bottom brackets, whatever, cranks. It takes away so much of the guesswork of working on bikes where it's like, all right, do this specific torque setting. I greased and cleaned everything. It should be good. I don't have to go back and readjust it because the torque setting is the torque setting. I don't have to second guess myself. 5 Newton meters on the faceplate of the stem. Yeah, that thing's not slipping. That's enough. 40 on the crank bolt. Yep. All right. That's not going to creak. That's enough. It'll still be okay to take off. And it's just really satisfying using a torque wrench and hearing that. I feel a lot more professional. I feel like I'm more assured when I hand over the bike to somebody because everything is to spec, and that I know for a fact that nothing is going to be wrong because the spec is the spec. Trust in the spec. I also learned that I'm a competent mechanic because, when I'm working at home and I have all these problems and I think it should take a certain amount of time to fix, but then it takes like 4 or 5 times longer than I think it takes to fix, that's actually pretty normal. And it takes a bike shop pretty much the same amount of time that it takes for me to fix the same problems at home. Of course, a bike shop will be more efficient because they have all the tools, they have all the spare parts, they have all the know-how, and they might have come across your very specific problem before and don't have to Google anything, and they know the techniques to fix it. But generally, everything went pretty smoothly that day, and I realized that I was placing these unrealistic expectations on myself for how long it should take to do a specific job on the bike. And that while I may not be a master mechanic, I am a competent enough mechanic to work at a shop. And that if ever down the line I want to open a bike shop, I can. If this YouTube thing suddenly implodes on me. And that if I do open a bike shop, if I do ever settle down enough and live in a place enough and have enough mental problems and deficiencies in my brain where I actually want to open my own bike shop, that I would have fun doing it. If you own or work at a bike shop, let me know in the comments below how you like it and some of your favorite stories about it.